So I'm going to try to do this retelling of a story that was written around 1850, an eyewitness account from a woman who I guess would be considered the mistress of the plantation. Her name is Sally Park, and she writes in detail about her witnessing a curing ritual on her plantation, Beechwood Hall, amongst a group of slaves. Now, she says that one of the slaves, Etta, had been tricked, so to speak. The woman that shared the slave quarters with Etta, whose name was Eliza, reported that Etta had been crawling around on the ground all night, hissing and acting like a lizard. Etta's father, who lived on another plantation, sent for a voodoo woman to come and cure Etta. This voodoo woman, who remains nameless, is said to not have a mother or a father, and they have to be very careful how they talk about her because they say that she hears everything. No one knows where she came from, and they say that no one knows where she's going after that. She just kind of appears. But it was reported that Etta was crawling around on the ground looking for something while hissing like a lizard, and that's how they all know that she had been tricked. It's also suspected that another woman on the plantation named Sue is the one who tricked Etta in the first place. Now, what's interesting about this is that they say that initially Sue looked like she was sick, that she was going to waste away, and that she could actually unalive at any moment because she couldn't eat anything. But then as soon as Etta came down with this trick laid upon her, now Sue is up running around, and it looks as if she could live to be over 100 years old. Now, Sally interrupts Eliza and tells her that all of this is nonsense, to which Eliza replies, "This is not nonsense. Everyone knows that Sue is one of those women who goes around at night and sucks out people's blood. Sucks out the blood of the young, excuse me." She says the chillin' dies and she keeps on living. Well, Sally, still not believing it, says that you can't be serious. This is nonsense. Sue looks like she hasn't been able to move in years. This is when Eliza says, "Shucks, Miss Sally, she don't need no foots to walk with tonight. Peter Sladden knows that she can travel faster than the bird can fly. He's seen her standing in the door one night with big black wings on her shoulders, same as a bat, and she was right up there and gone clean out the house in just a minute. He saw her with his own eyes." Now, as you know, then this would be a classic description, not of a conjure, but then of a hag. And so the doorway that Peter Sladden saw her standing in was that of a baby. And it says by the next morning, Mary Billy's baby was unalive and old Sue was hopping around like nothing was wrong with her. Now, Eliza goes on to state that she believes that Sue had something to do with Jerry's death. Jerry was her soon-to-be, and Jerry ended up passing away from a heat stroke. But still not paying any attention, the mistress of the plantation, Sally, tells Eliza, "Well, we're not going to pay any attention to that. Let's just go talk to Sue ourselves." And this is what I like to call white people shenanigans. Antebellum white people shenanigans. Now I'm going to read the following description from Sally. This does include a racial slur, so trigger warning for anybody, but I am just going to read it as she wrote it. She says, "She followed me to the door of the cabin of the old woman, who had been an unprofitable charge upon the plantation for a quarter of a century, but I could not get her to go inside. I entered alone, and the moment I spoke to her, the wretched old centenarian, a mere bundle of bones and clothes in the chimney corner, began to mumble and chatter. The cob pipe dropped unheeded from her blue gums and would have set fire to her dress but for the nimbleness of the pickaninny who had to care for her. She raised her skinny claws, they had ceased to resemble hands, protestingly, and the wrinkled black skin of her face fell pendulous from the bone as she wagged her head to and fro, saying, 'Don't come in here pestering me, child. The Lord knows I ain't do nothing to that girl. Send for Dr. Davison. They says I'm the ones to the bottom of it, but Lord knows I ain't done nothing.' The filmy sightless eyes rolled about restlessly, vainly seeking mine as she urged her innocence. 'Send for Dr. Davison,' she repeated. 'He'll tell you there ain't nothing the matter with that gal.' Putting her head in the doorway, Eliza said, "Lord, Miss Sally, don't trust that. Doctors don't know everything. Doctors, God Almighty, don't know everything." Turning to the hideous living mummy, I said, "You needn't be uneasy, Aunt Sue. I shall have the whole matter carefully investigated, and none shall hurt you if you have done nothing wrong." "The Lord bless you, honey, and every spit of your grandpa. He would never let them hurt old Sue. Poor old Sue. No, he'd never let them hurt poor old Sue." We left her muttering "poor old Sue," which she often would refrain from doing for hours at a time. As we walked down the lane between the houses and the quarters on our way to Eliza's cabin, the girl kept so close behind me that I felt she had the folds of my dress tightly grasped in her hand. Her voice was quivering with an ill-suppressed fear. She whispered, "Folks say she talking to that old boy when she carries on like that." "Eliza," I said, "are you really truly afraid of Aunt Sue?" "No, I'm afraid of her. I'm not afraid of her, excuse me. I wears red pepper in my shoe." "Red pepper? For what?" And Eliza responds, "To keep her from hurting me, Miss Sally." And Sally responds, "Well, where did you get that idea?" Eliza goes on to explain to Sally that most of the slaves know the superstition to keep a hag from riding your back, that you wear red pepper in your shoe or a silver dime. Sally, still believing that this is all crazy, just goes along with it. When they get to Etta, she asks Etta if she's okay, and Etta tells her no, that she's going to die. That's when Sally says, "Well, if you want the voodoo woman to come and see you, I'll agree to let her come." Now, the voodoo woman, as they say, was a delicate light mulatress of reddish tinge, an oval face, regular features, and large, brilliant black eyes that gave her singular beauty. She wore no hat or bonnet, but around her head was twined a turban of bright hues. Madras yellow was the dominating color. Large hoop earrings hung from her ears, and a string of blue beads was twined around her throat and fell in festoons longer and longer until they touched the waist of her white tunic. Beads were also wound around her arms, which were loose sleeves that were left her arms bare. Beneath the skirt was a dull indigo blue, which did not conceal her well-turned ankles and her exquisitely formed bare feet, which carried her lightly yet with dignity into the house. Now, there is a note in this that says that this is an early description of a 19th century black gypsy root worker. So, not necessarily a voodoo woman, so to speak, but possibly a gypsy root worker. Now, unfortunately, I don't have enough time to read the rest of it, but basically, the mysterious gypsy root worker does confirm the fact that the old woman did try to trick her with the vial that Etta was initially looking for under the house. Etta also had a child that died, and it was because of this the old woman Sue tricked her for reasons unknown. Etta believed that the vial would be able to bring the baby back, but it did not. And so the root worker then says she sent the vial away back to wherever it came from, and that Etta would be fine. And in the end, she was up again by midnight, walking around eating as if nothing was wrong. Now, the root worker did pass out for a little bit, and Sally says that they allowed her to sleep in another cabin. And when they went back to check on her, the woman was mysteriously gone. Now, I wish there was a follow-up as to what happened with Sue after this moment, but just the image of an old woman in the back corner doing her little thing as a hag or whatever it was is enough, which is probably why nobody bothered her again after that. But either way, I know this was a long one, but let me know what you guys think about this crazy story in the comments.